back in. It's another episode of the Wobcast 2.0. Yours truly, my partner, my co-host Giles, coming to you to talk edge rushers for the Minnesota Vikings as our position-by-position review of the roster from last season continues, and we try and spin it forward to see how the Vikings can get better in each room in 2024. Edge rushers are up today, my friend. How goes it, and how we feeling about the Vikings pass rushers?
Oh, man, we're on the edge of glory here. No pun intended.
Yes.
This is an interesting category to talk through because obviously there's a lot of steam going on with Danielle Hunter that we'll get into. And I think it's important to note that in 2024, Patrick Jones and Andre Carter are the only edge rushers under contract. I think there's a lot more of an alarm bell ringing that most people don't realize is ringing yet. And that's definitely an area of focus for the Minnesota Vikings, I'm sure, when it comes to free agency and draft and the like. So it's definitely going to be a big conversation here.
Yeah, that when you term it that way, Giles, that's a little disconcerting there. So let's break it down here. This is sort of, I'll start very high level, and then we'll kind of descend into the weeds from there. Okay.
All right.
I look at this group, and it's sensational production by the leader of the group is the highlight of this group.
Yep.
And then I see injuries and a lack of depth led to no real complementary part to that. And it kind of left Danielle Hunter out on an island. And like he was so good that you never were really like overly concerned about the edge rushers during the season. But now that you can kind of pause, relax, assess, analyze, and overthink about it, you're kind of worried about the edge rushers. That's like, to me, like the high level look at it was like, wow, Danielle Hunter is so good. Oh my God. And once you're sort of done oogling over Danielle Hunter, you kind of look around and you're just like, oh my God, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yep, could not agree more. 100%. I mean, you phrase it in the way that I was maybe looking to articulate it. Like, we not only need starters, we need depth for 2024. That's a difficult space to get into. I mean, I think to your point, I think Brian Flores' defense, considering the illusion of complexity and how many people they were blitzing, that people were like, oh, we blitzed a lot and we try to send a lot of pressure, but that wasn't necessarily coming from an edge group. There was definitely some deficiencies there. So I definitely think this is going to be a big topic, and obviously they're an expensive crowd to deal with. There's a lot to chat through.
Yep. So when healthy now, Marcus Davenport appeared to have some juice. And I think it would have been interesting to see the Vikings defense and Brian Flores armed with his services all season, but that just did not come to fruition with the injuries. I mean, I think he played like a few games, really at the end of the day. And that was really it. So he missed week 1. He played a few snaps in week 2, missed week 3. And then he had a good couple of games. And then after week 6, Davenport was done. So really a swing and a miss there because of injury. And the reason that it's viable to criticize and be hard on the Vikings for that is injuries are typically bad luck, but Marcus Davenport has always been injured. So
always.
And this was a problem with, you're not going to re-sign Zadarius Smith because you're going to get Davenport. Well, the problem with that is Davenport could get hurt. And then when Davenport gets hurt, people are just like, this is what I was talking about.
Yep.
So I think the Davenport unavailability was really the biggest blow to this group. I thought DJ Wanham getting hurt at the end of the year was a huge bummer, but up until that point, that was sort of a positive component of this. He played 800 some snaps, had 8 sacks, and at the end of the day, the Wanham Hunter tandem was the 4th best defensive end / edge rushing, pass rushing production in team history, 4th best with 24 and a half sacks. After Hunter Wanham, though, just really not much to speak of. Patrick Jones had 630 some snaps. Andre Carter had a handful of snaps, played a lot on special teams, and those two have some developmental capability, but you don't want them in a role any more elevated than developmental. If they are elevated into higher roles than that next year, they are weak spots. If they are developmental players underneath 3 better players than them, then they are strengths.
Yep.
So all in all, I think this room is very much under construction. Hunter is a piece of really good foundation, but he's not even under contract right now. He's a free agent, as is Davenport, as is Wanham, as you've alluded to. Wanham was also rehabbing. So there's concern here. Now, Ben Lieber, a Vikings analyst, someone I respect, and I know someone you pay attention to, actually made the case to not break the bank for Danielle Hunter, which surprised me. I think they should pay Danielle Hunter and keep him. I mean, one stat that blew me away, he has more sacks as a Viking than Jared Allen had.
Oh my gosh. As a Viking. Wow. That's incredible. I think a lot of people look at how much time Danielle Hunter has missed due to injury, and I think maybe that gets lost in translation, but he's a freight train. He truly is.
He had 12 games with 1 sack last year. He has more sacks than Everson Griffin had as a Viking. So, like, I want him back.
I think the only reason you don't bring him back is if you feel he's about ready to fall off a shelf.
I don't think he is, man. Do you?
I don't think he is either. I do think, I mean, he's obviously just over 29 years old. I think once you get to 31, 32, you're done, right? But I think he has another year or two of productivity left where he is still a productive member of society. Hopefully that society being the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes.
And I do expect that he'll be asking for 20 to 25 million, which obviously you need to have big conversations philosophically about where you want to spend your money as an organization. But edge rusher is a very important part of it. Unless your plan is to go get one of the premier free agents and spend the same amount and get the same productivity, I don't see how you can let him walk. Because when you look at Patrick Jones, who is one of the 2 edge rushers under contract in 2024, out of the 112 qualified edge rushers in 2023, guess where Patrick Jones ranked?
112?
He was 112. He was the worst edge rusher in football.
Oh, God.
He ended the year at a 37.9 grade in every category. That wasn't not only bad, that was abysmal. And he played the 3rd most amount of snaps for the Minnesota Vikings last year in the edge rusher group. Just horrible. Now, I know there was a lot of upside potential with him, but he has definitely not realized it. And if you don't realize at least an uptick under the Brian Flores defense, I think there's an issue there, just being honest. So I don't think you can plan on that being even a backup element for you in 2024. So obviously you need to make some interesting decisions here. And that's where, I mean, when you think about the salary cap and the players that you need to sign, I know a lot of people talk about how it's so great that the Minnesota Vikings have this big amount of cap space to go spend, and that like, oh, look at that other team over there that doesn't have any cap space to go spend. I think it's important that you look at that conversation through the lens of how many players do you need to go replace, because just having a ton of cap space is not necessarily the priority. It's getting good players. And sometimes teams don't have cap space because they already have great players under contract. And now we have a lot of positions to go fill. And although we have some cap space to go deal with, like we essentially have 0 players under contract in the edge rusher.
Yes.
I mean, just being honest.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I almost wanted to give the grade a 0. I gave him a 3 because they have Hunter. And I think they're going to re-sign him. So
I think they're steaming that they're trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to be here, for being honest, but I think the Vikings are going to make a run.
Okay. So it's hard to grade the room because they got no one, but the guy they had last year is a superstar, and you put him and Wanham together, 4th most sacks by an edge rushing combo in team history. That's pretty good. So I can't give that a 0. So it was hard to grade him. I gave him a 3 for the purposes of our exercise, but that's immaterial compared to let's talk about how they can get better. So to me, the plan is really all about personnel to get better, Giles. I'm fine with the scheme. I don't have an opinion on the coaching. It looks like there's been they're mixing and matching coaches and stuff, whatever. It's not irrelevant, but it's not material, I think, relative to the personnel. The personnel here is the issue. This would be my plan. Re-sign Hunter and Wanham, and they are your starters.
Okay.
And then with the goal of developing Jones and Carter.
Okay.
Then these next 2 things I think have to happen, or something like them have to happen. Josh Uche of the New England Patriots.
Okay.
I'm interested in him. And then I'd use a top 100 pick on an edge rusher. Now, if you don't have Cousins, I think you want to try and get a quarterback at 11. unless there's a quarterback you like who you think you can get in the second round, you got your eye on him, you're going to make sure you get him, or you're going to trade up into the end of the first to get your quarterback, and then you can use that first round pick on an edge rusher, that Florida State kid. And there's another one that people keep mocking to the Vikings from Alabama.
Dallas Turner and Chop.
Dallas Turner. Yeah. So you get Dallas Turner, you get the Florida State kid. That'd be great, but it's got to be a top 100 pick. But Josh Uche, I want the Vikings to get their hands on him. PFF is in their numerical grade of him is hot and cold. I think he was like a 50 something last year, but last year was a little bit of a down tick compared to what he was in 21 and 22. But the write up PFF has and my study of him and my sort of report on him is I like Uche a lot. And I think he'd be a schematic fit in Minnesota. I think Flores can use him. I like that he comes from New England and that the New England brain trust liked him. That tells me that Flores has a high chance of liking him because that's where he comes from. Yep. So I like a free agent like Josh Uche, who is not top tier. He's not like, Brian Burns, Josh Allen, but he's not, Andre Carter III. He's like in the middle there. He's affordable. Spot Rack sees him as an $8 or $9 million per year guy. So that would be my free agent plan, Josh Uche. And then he probably gets elevated as a starter. Wanham becomes sort of a primary backup.
Yeah. I really like that, especially considering I heard rumor that Uche was dealing with some injury last year. Now, although he didn't necessarily miss games, he was pushing through injury through the course of the 2023 season. And I think to your point, it definitely translated into his grades. He had a 57.1 in 2023. But if you rewind the clock back to 2022, he had a phenomenal year. He had an 83.1 grade. He did, phenomenal. Had 12 sacks. When in true healthy form and healthy posture, 12 sacks, 83.1 grade. I will definitely take that for an $8 million price tag. Right now, this is essentially a Marcus Davenport experiment again if you're worried about injuries. So there's definitely a calculated risk you're going to have to take there. But if you can get back to true form, I'll definitely take that. Because in his rookie season, I believe he had, what was it? I forget how many sacks he had, but he ultimately had like a 77.6 grade in 2021, his rookie year. So I do think there's a bit of a freight train here if you know how to leverage it. So, yeah, I'd be all about that formula. I'd do that all day long.
All right. So that's sort of my plan. That's my personnel take on this group. I am, discouraged about where it currently stands. But if they re-sign Hunter and Wanham, they sign a free agent like Josh Uche, and they use their 11 or their second-round pick on an edge rusher, I think they're going to be okay.
Yep. So I think if I'm projecting here, if we re-sign Danielle, I think that means that Kirk Cousins is not under contract. Is that a fair assumption when it comes to people to pay? Or do you disagree with that in terms of logic here?
It seems hard. It's hard to envision a world where they're both there for the cap and cash reasons that you mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, Brzezinski can make anything happen for, when you give him a little bit of time to play with things. But if we just go for the general assumption that if Danielle Hunter is here, Kirk is not, which then would mean that you need to draft a quarterback or you need to get a bridge guy. But more than likely, you're going to try to get a quarterback either at 11 or you're going to trade up. Now, I think the only realistic option at 11 is either J.J. McCarthy, which I think he's, after the combine, secured himself in the top 10. Now, there's a chance he could fall to 11, but I think he's the only top-tier quarterback that I think could realistically land at 11. Otherwise, I think Joe Milton from Tennessee is kind of an interesting name that I think the Vikings have looked into. Has an incredible arm. He can throw like 90 yards without even like leaving his flat-footed stance. So I think there's a chance that could happen. But outside of that, if the Vikings aren't in love with J.J. McCarthy or aren't willing to take that risk at trying to get him at 11, I think the Vikings are trading up. I really do. And if they trade up, that means they're going to have to give up more than likely their second round pick, which means your top 100 is no longer plausible to go get an edge rusher. And you also need to get an defensive interior guy as well, right? So
I think
this is really an interesting thing when you think about, how do we fulfill this room? So I think DJ Wanham, I think definitely comes at the cheap, so to speak, when when you're evaluating all of your other defensive options. So I'm willing to definitely go that route. especially if you could devote some other free agency money to try to get a defensive interior guy or spend your third round pick on an interior guy to be able to bolster your interior. Because I do think that is a game of, similar to the offensive line, you're a game of averages. If you can get some pressure up the gut, I think that helps ease the pressure on the edge rusher. So I'm definitely interested in tackling that. I think you definitely need to address that. The only other scenario that I would entertain that would be a Band-Aid, to be very, very clear, would be exploring an older player that have specifically like 1 year left on their productivity. And that would be like a Zadarius Smith, bringing Zadarius Smith back. Now, I got rumor that I feel like the relationship isn't great between the Vikings and Zadarius, especially after, the coach was let go. There's a lot of weird things in the water there. So I don't know if Zadarius is necessarily an option, but I would absolutely bring him back if he'd be willing to. For a 1 year deal, let's just bring him in, him and Danielle Hunter. When both of them were healthy, they were awesome, right?
Yes.
I would take that all day long. And he thrives in a 3-4 defense. I think Zadarius would be awesome. Clowney is an option. I don't know if I necessarily love that, but I'd be willing to give that a go. Or Leonard Floyd coming from the Rams. I would definitely give that a look. But getting a Band-Aid fix, knowing that you would spend your first round pick next year on getting an edge rusher and trying to get somebody premier.
Yep. So now your Band-Aid fix, Giles, the exercise you just went through is absolutely something teams do. What you just did, scouts and coaches and GMs do in a meeting room in the team's practice facility with those names, and they rank them. They put them on a board and they put them in order, and almost assuredly there are relationships in the room that people have. From when I was with the Chiefs, we had this guy and I got his number or his agent's number. When I was with the Jags, we drafted him. So like that happens, but I think that's a later in the summer thing. That's like we didn't draft the guy in the top 100 who we love. None of the guys we took late in the draft are going to materialize. That free agent we signed, we cut, and camp starts in 4 weeks and we don't have a backup edge rusher. Like now they go through that exercise. Okay, what's Leonard Floyd doing? What's, Jason Pierre-Paul doing? Right? Yep. So that's absolutely an option, and they will go through that exercise later in the summer. And a lot of times, Giles, you can get a guy and it ends up working. And look, I don't know what the temperature is like with Zadarius Smith in the front office and his representation in the front office, but I know that when they didn't bring him back last summer, we talked on the Wobcast a lot. I'm like, okay, great. Who's going to rush the passer? Like, I can't believe you're not bringing him back. Really?
Yep.
Like, and that can't, and then it's like, oh yeah, we got Davenport. Oh, he's going to come in here. And it's like, okay, awesome. He's going to get hurt.
Got hurt.
2 months later, gets hurt, right? Like, it's like, duh. That's what was going to happen. And Zadarius Smith had a good year, by the way, for the Browns.
Yep. Great year. Yeah. I think too many people had recency fallacy where he got hit a knee injury in the latter half of the year when he played for us, and people are like, he's cooked. I'm like, no, he has a massive knee injury. Like, of course you're not going to be productive when you have a knee injury, but like you fix that and he was back to true form, right? I think people were too short-sighted on that. Really do.
You do not want to be shorthanded and small and young up front.
No.
It's just a long season. It's just too long of a season. I would way rather have to get by with guys in the like skill position athletic space, than try and like get some undersized Division II guy to like battle with the Detroit Lions offensive line in December. Like, no thanks.
No, exactly. If you truly want to go to the dance, you got to be prepared for that.
Yeah. So got to bulk up here and get it done. I think some of the things that we mentioned here, Giles, would be a good part of the plan. So, the interesting thing is, I think if like the way we do these exercises, we kind of do them in a vacuum. Like we kind of do it irrespective of the other moves that have to be made. So we're sitting here being like, sign Danielle Hunter, sign DJ Wanham, go get Josh Uche, right? And it's like, well, we also got to, get a quarterback, and we got to re-sign Jefferson, and we got to find a replacement for Hawkinson until he comes back. It's like, that's right. So like, it's a big, giant puzzle.
Yep.
And right now we're just kind of working on that little corner of the puzzle here, but that's the exercise. And we're just talking about how do you get better as an edge rushing room, and this is the way that we would do it. So,
I also think, depending on how you were to trade up in the 2024 draft for a quarterback, if you were able to leverage future picks, it's obviously trade 11, but like trade future first round picks in order to trade up. If you leveraged other pieces from the 2024 draft capital to trade back up into the first round, into the latter half of the first round to draft another edge rusher, that could be another option. Now, it's an expensive draft, to be very clear. If you're going to trade up twice, that's an expensive option, but you're also in a position where you need guys. You really do.
Yep. Yeah. You're right. You need a population right now in the edge rushing room that you don't have.
Yeah.
And I guess you feel immediately better if they re-sign Hunter. I think you're right on Wanham. You probably get him at a pretty good bargain because of his injury, but after that, it's nothing. You need warm bodies, and even if it's a top 100 pick, you still don't know about that till you see him. You get your hands on him and you coach him, right, and you get him in there.
Yep.
So it's a little tenuous right here for the Vikings, but I think the plan we laid out here would get the job done. Now, if you just listen to us, guys, at TCL Performance Center, come on, listen to us. You got the plan. You got the plan.
Here's the
now,
formula.
Do it. Come on. Are you good, Giles? Let's wrap this up here. Are you good with scheme and coaching? I basically just blew over that because I am good with it. Any problems there? Any nits to pick with scheme and coaching?
Scheme, no. I like the way we're approaching the field here. I do think we need the ability to win one-on-ones. That is a deficiency for our defense currently, so that needs to be addressed. So I don't love just re-signing DJ and Danielle Hunter and expecting that to change. You'd either need to go get a defensive tackle to be able to adjust that, or upgrade your other edge rusher outside of Danielle Hunter to be able to win more one-on-one. So that is kind of a precedent that needs to be understood here for this defense. But outside of that, I'm in love with this scenario. Outside linebackers coach obviously took a leave of absence. Interested to see what they do this offseason. I don't know, unless you correct me, I don't know if that's been really addressed. So that is a little bit of a question mark for me. And obviously from a relational standpoint and a cultural standpoint, I'm guessing that has some type of impact, whether that's small or large. Definitely needs to be addressed, but outside of that, scheme is where I want it to be.
Yep, me too. All right, well, we'll see what the Vikings do. Some news and headlines to be made. Maybe it'll be around the Vikings' edge rushing and pass rushing situation. If so, I hope the number one domino to fall is the re-signing of Danielle Hunter. I'm pro the re-signing of Danielle Hunter, as is Giles. So that's going to do it for the edge rushers, the pass rushing room for the Vikings. Definitely some ground to make up, but a plan could be in place to do so. We hope the Vikings follow it or something similar. And if you don't know Josh Uche, go out and study him. He's Wobby and Giles approved. Josh Uche. Hey, and if Belichick liked him, why wouldn't you? Right?
I think that right there, you nailed it you hit the nail on the head.
All right. So we will hit another room next week, everybody. Make sure you stay tuned to a bonus late week edition of the Wobcast 2.0 next week as we continue our position by position review and preview on the Vikings roster. If you're not already, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the Wobcast 2.0 on all the platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, all the places. Once you do, we will see you there. Partner, have a good rest of the week, my friend.
All right. Stay classy, San Diego.
All righty. Until next time, everybody, Skol Vikings.